Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Streets
Very mellowing, eerie version
Very,
of the song, right?
very.
Especially because we know
Very.
what
This is like Jim
where it's
Morrison's
from.
Psyche wrote it. Exactly.
What's up, everybody? Welcome to a brand new episode of Granny's Peach Tea, episode 183 on this Friday evening in January. We got a lot of stuff to get into. Thanks for joining us as always. If you're joining us in your Facebook live stream, or if you're joining us on YouTube or wherever you found your audio-only podcast, always appreciate the support. Yep. If you haven't known, people are strange when you're a stranger.
True story.
The cover of the famous Doors song, but by Johnny Hollow from the season finale of Creature Commandos that dropped yesterday on Max. Very interesting scene that I can't wait to talk about with that whole thing. But yeah, man, excited to talk with some more comic book stuff, and we're going to be wrapping up our adventure through the Crow franchise with the final entry into it.
We soared through it, flew right through it like an omen, like a harbinger of death.
Oh man, Jason, some might say we're a murder of crows at this point.
Oh, yeah, we are. You and I, Ed, are officially a murder of crows.
It took us a minute, but we are finally getting through it. At the end of the show, we will be ranking the Crow franchise. Spoilers, you can take a wild guess what's at number one. But after that is where it gets interesting. So, can't wait to share that.
Wild.
Jason, what's up, man? What's going on? We haven't seen each other since Sunday?
Sunday. I know. I mean, we do two shows together. But no, things are good. I have a little story. I like to tell little stories sometimes while you share out the show. So this afternoon, wasn't feeling well today. Took the day off of work. Needed a little time to myself. Going through my closet, and I came through something I bought a while ago, which is this action figure of the Bookworm, which I think is like my favorite stupid Batman villain from like the old 66 Batman. And it gave me inspiration. So I go get my son, and I'm like, you know what? I was about 5. He's going to be 5 in February. I was about 5 when I first found Batman live action. It is my first Batman was Adam West. I talked about that on the show when we did Batman 66. So I just take the Blu-rays out because I'm an old man. I will never give up my digital media. I'm being buried in it in a whole rec center when I die. And I just put it out on the table, and my son goes, "What's that?" And I go, "Oh, it's Batman and Robin." And he goes, "Oh, are they played by kids?" That's the first thing. And I'm like, no, but they're actors. It's live action. I said, do you want to watch it? He says, yeah, okay. So I tell him, pick a villain. He picks the Riddler. It's my son. So I put the very first episode on. He's in it. Like, he's in it. He's not, he's walking back and forth and stuff, but he's in it. At one point, he goes, "Daddy, Batman has nipples." And I go, "Buddy, what are you?" And I look up at the screen, and because it's Blu-ray, you literally could see Adam West's nipples through the bat suit.
Well, hold on a second, Jason. This is a revelation, though. So you're trying to tell me that the nipples were not on the bat suit?
The nipples were not on the bat suit, but I wonder if this is where Joel Schumacher got the inspiration to put nipples on the bat suit.
Oh my God. Wow.
My son might have solved this mystery.
Yes. Finn, the man, the sleuth. It might be the world's greatest detective.
He might be. I mean, just going, I thought I was about to say something to him, like, "Buddy, that's not, what are you talking about?" It's like, oh, fucking nipples, right? I never noticed it. And I've watched that Blu-ray like 3 times.
All right, so listen, if this is the case, and Finn is going to be the world's greatest detective, which would lead me to believe that he is going to become Batman. You and Reg need to be careful. No taking him to see Zorro. No walking down alleys in Forest Hills. None of that.
None of that. Matter of fact, I'm going to fucking throw Reg's right out the window right now.
I'm concerned for you guys now.
No, you're right. You're right.
Because we've seen it so many times.
Where, look, so many times I've seen the pearls break and Bruce Wayne fall to his knees. I was studying. That was a handbook.
Wow. So maybe he'll go to Florida and he's going to train with Rick in judo. Rick is the Ra's al Ghul of the story.
Rick is Ra's al Ghul.
That's
Rick is, or like if you go lore, he's like the master detective that Batman studies with.
Oh, well, I mean, if we're going to go more, he could go and train all over. He can train with Rick in martial arts. He can train with, I don't know, we'll find other people. I don't know, Grogan would teach him something. Where's Grogan? Who's Alfred?
Grogan would teach him how to hold his liquor.
Yeah. You got to see someone who's an archer. I know some people that play darts. They can be the archer because supposedly, like, he learned also.
That's right. That's right.
Oh,
and the key, the last person he has to talk to is Jerry, and Jerry teaches him how to put on the suave billionaire persona.
Yes,
because that's what Jerry would.
Yes,
teach him. It's had to be Bruce Wayne.
Of course he would. Yeah, exactly. He was like, "Well, you need to put on a mask, so we're going to teach you how to be that. Let's go to the Polo Mansion."
First, get a martini. Don't drink like a savage, which is what he was saying at your wedding the whole time.
He's nuts. He's absolutely nuts. All right. Well, listen, we got some stuff to get into here, and also I guess inadvertently it will take us into. By the way, before we get into this, the coloring on our ticker and everything is peach for the first time ever, because it happened to match the wallpaper that we got in the background. So just wanted to say, Granny's Peach finally has. Yeah,
it's peach. Yeah, it does. Now that I'm looking at it, anything else would clash. It's perfect.
Wow, nailed it. Well, speaking of things with the world's greatest detective, Creature Commandos episode 6 and 7, 7 being the finale. But let's give a quick recap of 6 before we get into 7, because we did not have a chance to discuss episode 6 online. So also let me just drop that spoiler ticker.
Yeah. 6 is big though. There's a lot. Like I kind of wish we were able to talk about 6 on its own, because that's a big episode.
Oh, it is. Let's jump into it here. Let's discuss it, because I'm not gonna gloss. Because there is a lot to get into in episode 6. Mainly around, we get the story, and we knew this was coming. The backstory of Dr. Phosphorus, right? Before we get into that part, though, I'm sure you clocked in the beginning when he jumps out of the dumpster and he's whistling the fucking opening theme of the show. And just
that was brilliant.
I thought that was spectacular. So cool.
Yep, and his whistle becomes the theme, and it goes right into the intro. That was so stylistically, that looks so cool. It was so on brand for Dr. Phosphorus, and foreshadows a lot of the craziness that happens at the end of this episode in his flashback.
Yeah, his flashback is something. So he basically, we noticed that throughout the episode, like in real time, he's hiding in this house, right? Because they're in Pakistan, and they're hiding out from the knights that are there, and the team is basically broken up throughout this episode. Everyone's doing their own little hiding thing. We'll start off with Dr. Phosphorus, who starts with his family that he ends up hiding in there, and he sees a child in there, and it starts triggering, his memory here. That seems to be how the themes go with this. And we learn his backstory, that he was a doctor who was doing cancer research and was getting funding from criminals in Gotham. And the criminals in Gotham, one of them being Rupert Thorne, who finds out he's fudging his... Yeah, by the way, another thing too, before I forget, because I didn't put this in my notes, the opening of this episode Didn't it seem like the Batman the Animated Series a little bit in the beginning? Just a very couple of first couple of frames?
Yeah.
Right? A little bit. I think, and
yep,
I'm sure that was intentional.
Yeah, right, because it's like we're in Gotham. That's where they want to put our brains.
Exactly. Animated Gotham, that's going to be the first one you're going to think of is Batman the Animated Series most of us. Especially in the moment that it was so difficult not to text you about once I saw it because I flipped out.
When we get to it, I got to tell you my reaction because it is so
I have to know it. I wish I was there for it.
Yeah.
So basically, we find out he's been fudging the results of his research to keep the funding going because he's doing cancer research and he wants to keep that there. But then he finds out that these criminals, Rupert Thorne, they're selling these secrets, to other countries, and he doesn't want to actually, sell these secrets or whatever. So that's why he's fudging these numbers and wants to keep them going. Regardless of where the money's coming from, he needs to do that. And he mentions his father might still be alive and stuff like that. I think it was maybe another family member that he had mentioned. But they catch him. They basically murder his family savagely. Like his wife gets bent into like a fucking pretzel.
That was fucking hard to watch. Especially when they bring him there and make him like pretty much make him wallow in it to get his prints all over it, and he's crying. And we had met her before because we see a little bit of them, like where she's like, "You don't know who these people are. Don't take their money." And he's like, "No, this can cure cancer for everyone forever. It doesn't matter who these people are." And so it's even more heartbreaking to see her end like this. And yeah, it's horrifying. And Rupert Thorne is chilling during this because he is a stone cold psychopath. Like him and his boys are taking pleasure in this.
Yeah, they're laughing throughout the whole thing, through the crime. Like I mentioned, the setting him up and putting his hands in the blood and stuff like that. Like it's pretty brutal the way this goes down. And then they basically say that they're framing him as the scientist goes crazy, throws himself in his atomizer, and committed suicide. But little do they know, this is how he ends up becoming, Dr. Phosphorus.
Yeah.
And he has his whole energy and his powers and stuff like that, whatever you want to call him. And once he gets out of that fucking reactor, obviously revenge is the first thing on his mind. And the way he murders and gets his revenge, oh my God, it's bad. It's really bad.
And he's so and you know what? I was going to say he's so gleeful about it, but then I actually just now realized he's not. He looks gleeful because he looks like he's smiling. They make a point to say that in this episode. He tells the girl, "Oh, I look like I'm smiling. I'm not." So it's a weird thing. He looks like he's murdering these people gleefully, but you don't know what he's thinking inside. But yeah, he kills Thorne and his kids and his wife. And I'm kind of like surprised that we've burnt Rupert Thorne at this point. But I mean, whatever. I mean, he's not the biggest of people, but and then he goes after all of the goons, and oh my God, like he brutalizes them.
The worst one for me was the guy off the top of the roof that he burns his ankles, and he's like, "Let me go, let me go," and then obviously his ankles burn, and then the rest of him drops. Oh my God, that was bad.
Oh, that was bad. That was bad. Yeah,
that was pretty. That
guy.
brutal.
The guy he kills that is just, this is the only one I felt bad for because I think everyone else deserved it for what they did to this guy's family. But when he kills the pretty much the head of security at Thorne's house, who's like, when he comes to kill him, and he's like, "I'm here to see Rupert Thorne," he just goes, "Can I get your name to see if you're on the list?" Like he didn't even say no.
No.
He just puts his hand in his face and melts it.
And there's times where he just puts his hand through mouths and stuff like that. And we've seen a little bit of that in episode 5, the way Phosphorus, because it was warming us up for this, that this was coming.
Absolutely. And he does that in 6, and we'll get to it, but he does that in 6 where I shivered, where he does the mouth thing to someone.
Yes. Yeah, he does do it in the finale as well. So he is basically going ahead, and I think he somewhat does become gleeful once he takes over his operation, because he goes in front of these other criminals and he's like, "Listen, Rupert Thorne's shit is all mine. It's his is mine now, and that's that." And I think it's just to a point of insanity, to be completely honest with you, because he is really, he went over the edge. He watched his family get murdered and everything like that.
Yeah.
And he's just completely on a warpath. And we see him dancing and stuff like that. He's dancing with his other people. We see him with machine guns, taking over, doing crime stuff and stuff like that. It running amok in Gotham. And then there's one scene where we hear everyone screaming. And then he even stops what he's doing to look up. And we get the silhouette of in the first appearance of the DCU Batman. Batman is officially in the new DC universe. Jason, your reaction, because my eyes popped out of my head and I was like, fuck yes, let's go.
So I'm watching this episode, and throughout the whole episode, I'm kind of going back and forth with a couple things. I wasn't sure how I was feeling about a couple things going on, which is how I watch everything. And I'm and then I'm kind of trying to figure that out, and then Batman shows up, and that goes all out of my head, and to no one at all, because I was watching it by myself. I went, "Oh my god, it's Batman!" Like that's literally what I did by myself. I was stone silent. I was like, I gotta see where this goes.
So now I'm glad. I think we got just enough Batman, and I know there was a discussion with James Gunn like the day this episode dropped, where he was talking about how when the writer, the people who did the episodes, he wrote the story and everything like that and everything, but they were pitching them. The original pitch was way more Batman in the episode. He was like, pump the brakes.
I'm glad this was
so early on. Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna go. I'm not ready to commit to all of that. He's like, let's just keep it at a silhouette and the lightning and stuff like that. And that's who brings in Phosphorus, by the way, is fucking Batman. Of course.
Yeah.
It's fucking Batman.
Which makes sense, because who else was gonna bring in Phosphorus? That guy's like I don't even know how the fuck they keep him in Argus. I mean, how do they keep him locked up? He's very powerful.
He's extremely powerful. And basically, yeah, he was like scaling it down, and then at the time, people are being sleuths online, and social media is going crazy, like super zooming in on him and everything like that. Like, oh look at the logo on his chest. They're trying to break it down and everything. Like, this is what he's going to look like, and everything is going to be like a bulkier Batman. Who does this mean is being cast and stuff like that? And
that's too deep. That's too deep and down the rabbit hole for me.
People got excited, and I'm not saying I didn't, because I definitely did.
Oh.
I still stand by my Alan Ritchson casting for Batman. I'm hoping that still happens, but we'll see. That's still my pick for DCU Batman.
For me, it doesn't matter, because whoever it is, I'm going to go, I don't see it, whatever. I guess I'll just have to wait and see. And then I'll wind up liking it. So it really doesn't matter who they choose.
No, listen, I'm just throwing out my pick. I mean, listen, if they pick somebody else, fine. But I just, from reading stuff and hearing interviews with him, I know he really wants it. So that's why I'm also kind of pulling for him. He seems like a good dude and everything like that. So I kind of, that's why it's alternate things. And I like Reacher. I don't know if you've watched Reacher or not, but
I've never watched Reacher. No.
It's a good show. Season 3 is coming out like next month or something like that. But it's a cool show. And I think if you watched Reacher, you might be like, yeah, I can see this guy as Batman. I know, because it was when Reacher season 2 dropped, when there was a lot of, he was comparing it, that Reacher's arc in that season to Batman.
Yeah. Now, you know what it is? I just have to shut the fuck up about Batman casting, because even the last one where I was like, oh god, Twilight Batman, what are we coming to? And he was awesome. So I just need to never speak until I actually see it, is the thing.
That's really what we all should be doing, to be honest with you, because it seems like
this is true.
Wrong more than often than right.
Look, I contend Mephisto will be in the White Vision show. We will be vindicated.
We're holding on. We're holding on hope. Holding on hope so bad. Who knows? I know there was even some early rumors about him being an Ironheart, and I'm like, stop, that doesn't make sense. Just go away.
Yeah, I don't get that.
I'm not even going to entertain that one. All right, so that's a lot of Phosphorus's backstory, and it was also a heartbreaking backstory, but I feel like Phosphorus in a little bit of a way where it wasn't the Weasel origin story, and it wasn't
right.
the Nina story that we got in the finale, but it was still
Right.
like they were all sad stories.
They were all sad stories, and I'll tell you. So what I was going back and forth in my head with was, I was like, damn, every one of these like villains have actually been understandable, and most aren't even villains. Like, the Weasel's not a fucking villain. Nina's not a villain. Nina, we'll get to it. Nina didn't fucking do anything. Nina was, wrongly prosecuted and arrested. But so I was hoping with Phosphorus that we would get a villain with a capital V. And then when I saw how he became Phosphorus, I was like, man, this guy's a good dude too. This guy was like, wanted to cure cancer and then tried to stop these nuclear secrets going to a fascist regime. Like, this is a good dude. But then I realized as I was watching it that, Phosphorus isn't that guy anymore. That guy literally doesn't exist anymore, and didn't after that. Like, that radiation thing, it's kind of like Dr. Manhattan, which is very similar, like, look-wise. That's how Dr. Manhattan gets his powers, is, but he's reborn as something else. And I didn't realize that until I had a moment where he says to the girl, like, I really wish you wouldn't have come down here. And I thought to myself, even knowing his backstory, like, oh my God, is he going to kill this kid? And that's when I reconciled it, where I was like, no, this is really interesting, because he is clearly a villain with a capital V. He isn't that guy anymore. That guy was just how he got here. And so I thought that was really, really interesting.
Yeah, like he murders a lot of people. Phosphorus has.
Oh, yeah.
Phosphorus, I guess, technically the Bride is the one who has the highest kill count, body count in this out of the team. But Phosphorus is probably right there with her. Just because the Bride's been around longer and doing it longer.
Yeah. That's it. It's not that Phosphorus is sleeping. It's that she's had 100 years of time before he was around.
Yeah, exactly. She got a little bit of a head start. Speaking of the Bride, though, her and Nina also meet up there, and they're sneaking around, and they end up inadvertently hiding in a brothel. That's there. And they're hiding out there from the Knights. The Knights come in looking for them. And then while they're in there, there's a really interesting comparison that's being made when the Madam is talking about, because the Bride's criticizing them for using their bodies for money and they don't respect themselves and yada, yada. And she flips it around, though. I was like, but you two respect because she doesn't know anything about Nina. And you two respect your bodies. You use it for violence, to kill people. And she's like, you don't fight. My girls are struggling to survive. They're doing this to live. You're trying to get yourself killed. You're trying to die at every given turn here. And she's like, whatever. Just like telling her to get lost. Basically, you're right. Just get lost. I don't want to be bothered with you, though.
And it feeds in perfectly into that next scene we're jumping around, but I think we're talking about their storyline now.
Yeah, just checking with
where these two guys come in, and they're like drunk, and they're like, we're up here for a party, and they're really manhandling the women. They grab two of them, and one of them pretty much gets mad at one of the prostitutes, but doesn't even. That's not what I mean. So they grab and go upstairs, and they're smacking her ass, and the Bride goes, yeah, some life you're living, or something like that. It's like, so she kind of digs right back at her.
Yeah, those two have a lot of interesting interactions in that whole scene. And then when that's happening, the Madam like interrupts them, finds out one of them's a metahuman and stuff like that. He's like, get off the girls, because he's abusing her. And Nina comes in with a broken glass and is trying to fight him off. And then the Bride gets involved, though. And she just blows one fucking guy's head off.
I love this scene.
Instantly. And then she snaps this dude's arm in half and fucking rips his heart out of his chest. Shows him his still beating heart. And says something along the lines of like, I bet you this isn't how you thought your day was going to end.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And two things I want to point out about that scene. One, lots of fucking respect to the Madam, because the Madam, when he shows he's a meta, she's like, okay, well, you're welcome here. but you can't abuse the girls and you can't use your powers. And he like attacks her, and I thought she was gonna like, I'm a meta too, and she was gonna fight. No, she's just standing up for him and be like, fuck you. Like, and even though he can do this. That's the first thing I want to say. Second, I love the way the bride kills the friend because he doesn't know she's there. And she's just standing there with the gun, like literally just waiting for him. And he comes in like, oh, it's on, bang. Like he's about to start shit and she stops it in like a second.
Yeah, she I don't know. She's awesome, man. She's such a brutal character though, too, at the same time. But again, you can see why she was driven to this point. Yeah. Her and Phosphorus, you can see why they were driven to this.
Absolutely. And when we get to the end of the next episode, the middle and the end, we kind of get more insight into her character. And, you know, she says something to Frankenstein. I'm not going to go into it, but she calls him a stalker. And it was the first time I realized that, holy shit, that is exactly what he's doing. He is, like, I completely lost track of the psychology of this character because it's David Harbour and it's fun and it's violent, but, like, no, she is who she is because she's had this fucking monster stalking her entire life, fucking up her life every time she gets attached to anything.
Yeah. And all started with, again, basically her first true love being Dr. Frankenstein. And he fucking, like, again, turned him into, like, a pretzel and brutally murdered him.
Yeah, so it really does great character development of these characters.
Agreed. And then Rick Flag is also in a coma. They follow up more on that in the following episode. Eric Frankenstein, though, he hijacks a plane to get to them, and it's just he's not in it. He's not in this episode this much, but his quick conversation that he has with the airplane pilot is great. It's so fantastic.
He is the best line of this. He is the best line of the season in this episode, in this scene that you're about to say.
No, go ahead. Go for it.
When he says, look, turn around and do the one thing you were made to do in the romantic comedy of my story with the bride, which will become pornography once I get there. However, it will be sensual and soft, like, you know, pornography for women.
Yes.
Dude, I was fucking dying at that. It's like, oh my God, that is such good writing.
Well, he actually does that in the beginning of episode 7 with the cab driver.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought he had said that to these guys.
No, it's fine. But
right.
the thing he says to it doesn't matter. It's still a fucking phenomenal line, and I wanted to go word for word by that. But yeah, you're right. He says that to the cab driver in the beginning of episode 7. But the cab driver's face of how, like, he's like just sweating and crying at the same time. Like he's just like,
yeah.
I just wonder what Eric Frankenstein was telling him prior to that, because we walk it on a conversation that's happening.
Yeah, exactly. He's a scary guy. He's a really scary guy.
What he tells the pilot though is something along the fucking lines of like, listen, what you're gonna do, and he basically goes ahead and kills the guy in front of him who's still bleeding. He takes his meal and he's about to start eating it. He's like, just go ahead. You're going to go ahead and play your part in my love story here. And you're going to turn the fucking plane around right now. And you're going to do that because that's only your little part to do. So let's get on with this shit. And Weasel, when we catch up with him, he is going through the woods trying to get to the princess. And he runs into this pack of wolves, which at first it looks like it's a scary situation, but then he kind of like drops down and his tail wags, which signals to the wolves that, you know, he's friendly and stuff like that. And then he throws a stick and he starts playing fetch with these wolves. And fucking Weasel is this pack of wolves he's having this blast of a time with. They're playing fetch, bouncing around, and then we find out like they're all curled up and sleeping, you know, as a pack. He's basically joining their pack, but then he sees the castle in the distance. And he thinks back, though, while he's there, to the princess, and he sees a correlation with the princess and with the little girl that he made the friendship with a couple episodes ago. And she played a lot of fetch with him for hours, and he has a soft spot for her. So he's like looking at the castle. He needs to go on with his mission, and he wants to go and see her. But then he looks back at the wolves, and he does contemplate. And the way I took this was, he was thinking like, maybe I'm where I'm supposed to be. Like maybe these are like my peers, like a family almost. Again, I'm part of their pack. They took me in, unlike everything else in the fucking world that's going along here. And it doesn't. It's not like a drawn out thing. But that's what I thought he was contemplating. But then he ultimately decides to go forward with the mission and stuff like that, and goes to see the princess. And he ends up walking into Phosphorus and Nina and the bride, and everyone kind of like walks together.
That's a cool scene where they all meet each other.
Yeah, right. And they're kind of walking there, and it's kind of like Guardians-esque, or like if you even want to say Reservoir Dogs type style, like they're doing the big walking shot and stuff. And they're off to go do their thing, and that kind of like takes us right into episode 7, into the finale, where we meet up with them. I mean, sorry, in the first shot of episode 7. We start off with Nina's story. Nina's born with her lungs outside. She has liquid in her lungs. She can't breathe. Anything like that. Her mother is horrified by this. And
a horrible person, by the way.
Yeah, her mother turns out to be a piece of shit with this. And her father, who is a doctor, even the nurse, says, listen, this is probably beyond me. Maybe you can help in. And he builds her this like kind of suit, in a way, this big contraption, so she can live. He's trying to save his daughter's life, and it allows her to breathe. It has like a little mask and stuff like that. And her mother is just like, listen, what are you going to do? Keep building as she's growing. You're going to keep building stuff. And like, when does it end? And like, like thinking this isn't worth it, and leaves them, walks out on them. Because of this.
She literally says, maybe we made a mistake by not pulling the plug.
Yeah.
Because they had a choice to like let your daughter die. Like, that's fucked up.
It is. It's really fucked up. It's, again, especially when you knew that your husband there had a way out. Like, he can do it, and he did it. He was doing it.
Yes.
And for that, it's you go for it. But her father goes ahead and tries to, he knows that over time he needs to to advance the technology, right? And he chooses to splice her DNA with like amphibious DNA. And it turns out she ends up mutating basically there. And that's how we get the look that she's got now with the scales on her hands and stuff, the webbed hands and everything like that. And he builds her a suit kind of like what we see now. And that's how she goes along. What was what was really heartbreaking is right before that, when he's walking with her to the park, and you could tell she's struggling big time and breathing and stuff. Like, you could see she's having a really hard time with it. But he's explaining to her in that scene,
right?
Like, I'm going to do this. I'm going to, I might have something for you. That definitely pulled at the heartstrings there when they're walking to the park.
I know, I agree, and I love their relationship that they have, and I was thinking, because the mother does say, like, what are you gonna do when she gets too big? Build another one. He said yes, and she goes, yeah, but what kind of life is this? That thing is like, it's literally her weight. And then that, like, one of the next scenes is her struggling, and I had that in my head. I'm like, oh my god, this poor girl. And this flashback out beyond all the others really makes you like this character, at least me, like this character and feel for this character and want this character to win. Fuck you, James Gunn.
Yeah, you knew. I mean, this was definitely timed impeccably because of what happens at the end of the episode. And we always knew Nina was like a nice person and stuff like that, but we didn't really know her story. She was definitely the more soft-spoken member of the team. Didn't seem like she was like villainous at all. And I was very curious to know what her story was. because we just didn't get it for a minute. And even the mother even says at one point, like something along the lines of, like she doesn't look at me. She only looks at you, sees you, the father, and stuff. And the father responds like, you don't look at her. Like, no wonder why she doesn't look at you. You don't show her love. She can sense that shit, man. And then the walking out happens.
Yeah, and you even see that when she's born, where the mother's like, well, what are we gonna do with it? And the father's like, her name is Nina. We're gonna call her Nina. Like they set that up, and then they follow up on it right there, and then she leaves. But it's a non-superhero part of the story, but I really want to point out the emotional appeal and emotional connection that this cartoon is doing in this moment.
Yep.
Like it really is heartbreaking, this episode.
Yeah, we'll talk about it, I guess, the series when we wrap this episode up. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of emotion to the series for sure. And again, it's the balance of comedy and off the wall characters, and then there's always heart in the middle of James Gunn stuff. And he just perfectly executes this, to a T at this point. But then she gets older. He homeschools her for a while, but then he brings her into basically high school, and she's got her suit and stuff, and he wants to enroll her because he wants to socialize her, and he even says to the principal, all she's known is me, and explains her situation. Yeah. She looks like she's interested in lacrosse, and then she starts to play that. She gets bullied in a hallway by these boys. They call her a frog. They make her say ribbit. They put a frog in her fucking locker.
That was fucking terrible.
Yeah,
fucking terrible.
These kids are fucking shitty, man.
I was watching it, and at that point, I was like, God, I hope your crime is you killed these cunts.
Yeah, I was starting to wonder what it was. Yeah, no, it isn't.
Yeah, but I wanted. But
well, then she eventually decides, I'm a burden. In her mind, she's a burden on her father. She's crying all the time. They even show her when she's crying in that thing. They show the tears and the bubbles going up and stuff like that out of her eyes.
Yeah.
And fuck, man, it was deep. So she goes ahead and she runs away, and she runs into the sewer. She leaves her father a letter. We get the voiceover of her father reading the letter in her own voice, and she goes into the sewer and she goes on her way. She's fucking eating fish and shit like that, raw. She's kind of choosing to just be where she can at least be underwater and be kind of, I guess, accepted and left the fuck alone. But then some asshole she wants to be what she is now. And some asshole with a camera catches her, and then it's on the news, and this monster is running around and stuff like that. And then it's in Star City, by the way, which I was also wondering if we were to get some sort of Flash thing going on here, but we didn't.
Right. Yeah, I think that would have been too much.
Oh no, Central City, Star City. I'm sorry. That would have been the Green Arrow.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah, I thought we were gonna get an appearance there, but no, that didn't happen. And the cops going ahead are taking her in, but then her father is there with the crowd, runs to see her and just telling her, "Listen, you're not a burden on me. I love you," and all this other stuff. And the cops see him and they fucking shoot him for going and being near and stuff like that, because he wasn't backing down to their commands. And her father dies right in front of her as she's getting dragged away and put in this fucking pool that they brought for her. And it's really heart-wrenching.
Yeah, and I want to point out here, now that we're here, her crime is fucking nothing. She didn't do anything. Her crime is existing. Yep. Why is she in Argus? That's ridiculous.
Well, it was also I also wanted to touch on the text group that we have, me, you, and Rick, right? Earlier, you had a question about the characters in this, what the difference between empowered people and monsters. What is Task Force M and Task Force X, essentially, right? because I feel like the lines were you felt like the lines were being blurred a little bit during the season, correct? I think Jason froze there. Jason's frozen. So essentially, what I think it is the characters that we get on Task Force 7, the Creature Commandos, is basically what they're being labeled as by Amanda Waller and by her team, not necessarily what they really are, per se. You know, like the bride, they don't know what she is. They don't know her origin. They don't know. Oh, there he goes. Jason, you're back?
I'm back. Yes. I don't know what happened. My computer just started to fritz out.
Yeah, you froze for a minute. Were you able to hear everything I was saying or no?
No, I didn't hear anything you said. I'm sorry.
All right. So you had a question in our group text regarding the difference between Task Force M and Task Force X, essentially, right? Like what makes a monster and what makes a superpowered person. So my explanation was, I think it's because it's what Waller and her team are labeling them. Like they don't know the origins of the bride, so she's a monster. They don't know the origins of Dr. Phosphorus, even though we know it. Monster. They don't know anything about him, really. Nina, we saw she got arrested for just being herself. Monster. You know what I mean? Weasel. We still don't technically know what he is, but he was arrested for being a monster.
Right. No, I get that. I think my thing is like, someone would have had to have talked to Nina at some point. I mean, to at least outfit her with that outfit. Like, so I think that because she literally didn't do anything, I don't know why she was arrested. But I think my thing was like, because we saw Weasel in the Suicide Squad, and now at the end we see a Suicide Squad member who's kind of a monster in this. But as I was thinking about it, I was like, I guess the difference is they did say that they can't run the Suicide Squad anymore. So maybe in my head I was like, okay, so it's just like anyone they can justify putting out there. Like, all right, we can't put out non-superpowered people, but you're a fucking animal, Weasel, get out there. So I did kind of come to that.
Exactly.
So but I'm thank you for that was
my
sort of
interpretation.
reinforcing it. And
yeah,
I think you're right about that.
Because it did make me think. And I didn't answer it on purpose because I was like, I'm going to save it for later and really kind of let it marinate for a minute. But that's basically, what happens there. We had mentioned the scene where Eric Frankenstein is in the cab and he tells the cab driver about the rom-com of story, that how he sees things, and how it's going to turn into porn, but softcore porn for chicks.
It is my favorite line of the whole series. Like these two episodes were like prime Frankenstein's monster episodes for me, just like for the dialogue alone. And I want to point out when Frankenstein lands in Pollokstonia, whatever it's called, he pays the pilots. So I appreciate that. He'll murder if he has to, but he'll reward you if you cooperate.
If you do right by his insanity. Yeah, if you do right by his insanity, exactly. And you don't seem like you're mocking him for not growing facial hair or not being able to grow hair.
Right.
As long as you abide by Eric Frankenstein's rules, you're good.
Yeah, that's it. You don't know what those rules are, and they change very frequently. But if you're lucky enough to abide by them, you'll get a payout.
Yeah, he doesn't know what they are most of the time from word to word out of his mouth.
No, I think had that pilot said word one before turning around, going back inside and flying this fucking creature where it wanted to go, he would have killed him. But he didn't. He didn't feel mocked. He didn't feel judged. He got what he wanted.
Yeah, that's true. So he shows up to the castle, and we catch up with the team, and they're breaking in. They're trying to get into the castle there. Like they're trying to complete their mission, kill the princess, like Waller sent them to do. And when they're in there, they're trying to get some intel, and then Eric Frankenstein climbs up the side of the fucking castle, tries to jump in, and he's by the window, and he's professing his fucking love again. She sees him with no hesitation and starts fucking shooting it, shoots him right out the fucking window, and keeps on going with her mission. Like no hesitation.
Yes. And that's when she says, "Get out of here, you crazy fucking stalker." And that's what made me realize exactly what this guy's about. Like, because, yeah, he's completely delusional to the point. Like, it's called, there is a psychological term, a disorder. It's called erotomania. It's where you think that you are in a relationship with someone you are not, and you can get very dangerous when your delusion starts to break, which is clearly him. But I love that she just guns him down and moves on. She doesn't think about him after that. I was left the whole time going, is he dead?
Yeah, because she does follow up and shoot him when she drops the line that you're talking about. And I mean, yeah, he's bleeding all over the place and stuff like that. And I'm like, all right, I don't think he's dead because he's Frankenstein. But I'm curious to see how this goes. It would be ballsy if they did, though.
That will look. This show, who knows? This show has balls. Sure. They could kill anyone, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, you're right. You're right about that. And then we catch up with Flag, and he's in his coma. Waller is talking to him, but he is able to get out enough information about McPherson. And then Economos and Waller go to McPherson's house to kind of confirm this and see what's what. Then they find the evidence of Clayface on the floor, splattered and stuff like that. Clayface looks like dead. Like, I'm assuming his movie's a fucking prequel at this point because he seems like dead.
No. I've seen this before. Clayface isn't dead. What happens with Clayface? I don't think he actually can die, to be honest. But what happens with Clayface? You beat him badly enough, like he sheds his skin and gets the fuck out of there. So he's appeared dead in Batman comics before. And video games, and like this is fairly common, so he's not dead at all. But that's kind of like his shed skin. But yeah, he looked fucked up.
Enough.
They were sifting through his face. They were picking up his fucking skull cap.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I mean, it seemed like there was some serious damage and we did see that he got that crazy shock of electricity. And she gets that. She sees McPherson's body and everything, so she puts 2 and 2 together. She's trying to call the bride and get word over there and basically shut down this mission. Just like, we fucked up and everything like that. Like, I get what Flag is trying to tell me. And then on the other hand, we catch up with the crew, and it's Bride, Phosphorus, Nina, and Weasel, and they see the princess going for her morning swim. Because she has this whole conversation with her guards. No, I'm going to go do my thing and this and that. So she's going to her water in the water, and they see her. And Weasel sees her from a distance, and he loves her essentially, or he has feelings for her that because again
he keeps having visions of
the girl.
He keeps having visions of her, playing fetch, and then the girl from his flashback playing fetch. So you kind of see that association, which I thought was super clever.
Yeah, and they realize that they need Nina to jump into action, to go under the water and to kill her. They were like, you're the one. This is it. This is your time now. And the bride has this conversation with her and tells her, she's like, but I thought you said I wasn't a monster. And the bride's like, you're the biggest monster of all of us. Like, that's it. Like, manipulating her. And she says something along, she calls herself a bitch. Like, that's there. And basically gets Nina to go and do her thing and talks her into it. And Phosphorus is chiming in as well. And even as she's going away, Phosphorus asks the bride, like, did I sound like I gave a shit? Like, was I convincing enough?
Did I sound like I gave a shit? Like which I love, because it really shows the difference between him and the bride. Because we see later, the bride does give a shit. The bride feels bad for this manipulation at the end of this, and Phosphorus does not give 2 fucks.
So, no, you're right. And so while this is going down then, Weasel eventually goes and gets loose and jumps into the water as they're all trying to talk him down. And that kind of tips off the princess, who sees Weasel, then looks down and then sees Nina with a knife and is about to stab her. She turns it around, goes in the water. She gets that knife, and she fucking stabs Nina to death. And
over
all we
and
see is
over
blood.
and over. Like, oh, it's overkill.
Yeah, it is brutal, the stabbing that's going on there. And Weasel gets out of there, and Phosphorus is the one who tries to get him. Weasel bites Phosphorus's hand, burns his own fucking mouth, obviously, and he gets injured in the process. And then the bride goes into the water to go see what's what, because she doesn't know who's coming up. And then we see Nina's body float up. And then the princess comes out after that. And the bride's reaction, her fucking guilt, is heavy. She's like, I just got this fucking poor girl killed. And then they hand her the phone, and it's like, oh, the call's for you. And it's Waller, and she is just totally distraught about what happened.
Yeah, and Waller's just says, we made a mistake. And I thought that was a super cool moment, because Waller calls the castle, and I don't know what she's going to do. Because again, anything had happened in this, and Waller's a fucking badass, and not a nice person. So I wouldn't have been surprised if Waller's thing was, they're coming for you, kill them. Right? Yeah. They're the fucking Expendables. But I thought it was cool, which everyone stop. And he just comes out and says, this phone call's for you. And she's like, hello? And it's like, we made a mistake. Stop it. Mission aborted. And to have it at that moment where she's looking at the body of the only friend she's ever had, as she says later, this was all for nothing. None of this mattered. And it was such a gut punch to the character, to the moment. Again, they are playing with drawing on such good emotions, for a comic book cartoon.
Yeah. So then shortly after that, we see the bride is talking to the princess in the castle alone, and she's kind of explaining to her, Cersei was setting me up, yada yada. And then the bride's like, listen, no, I think Cersei was right the whole time, actually. She's like, what do you mean? And then she lays it out there that apparently they found, earlier in the episode, they found security footage of the princess talking to Clayface and saying that she sent Clayface to go set this whole thing up. But she planned to get Rick Flag's trust that's why she was so persistent on trying to sleep with Rick Flag Sr. for a while. And that Cersei, the Dr. McPherson, was the real one that confirmed it to Waller. But then once the Clayface version came in, that Clayface version just killed her. And that was it, and kind of just set this thing up. So that I didn't see coming at all.
Me neither.
That was the deal.
Me neither. And she says to her, and I love this. This is the bride's best line. She goes, but I want you to know. It's after she just lays everything out that you just laid out. She goes, but I want you to know, I'm not going to kill you because you attacked me. I'm not going to kill you because you tried to destroy the world. I'm going to kill you because you killed my only friend the only friend I've ever had. Yep. And this is a brilliant moment because the bride knows what she's doing here. This because you could tell the bride figured this out a while ago. So now she's biding her time. Because before this, she's just having a conversation with Phosphorus, and she's like, all right, I'll be right back. I just got to go take care of something. And just kind of we have no idea what she's doing. But she waits. She knows that this woman's going to fucking pull a gun on her. And so she just waits for her to get the gun, and then bang! And you see that bullet go right between the eyes. And I thought it was awesome that she waited for her to draw the gun, because had she not, there could have been question, right? That was her proving to herself, no, I'm 100% right. I might kill you anyway because of what you did, but I'm 100% right. And I just thought that was such a chef's kiss of a sort of twist that I didn't see it coming either.
Not at all. That was pretty genius. So after that, we see the team head out of there. They get out of there quickly. They head back to Bel Rey, and they're there. And then the bride is given a new team by Economos. Hey, listen, thank you for everything you've done, this and that. And basically, they get opens up the wing for them, and then we see what was it? Phosphorus is there playing with. I actually did not catch who the one character was with the wings that are there, and I'm sure they'll be possibly introduced properly next season. But then we also get a rebuilt GI robot who's back, bigger, stronger than ever, and stuff like that. He's ready to roll, and we get King Shark is now on the team as well. He looks at Olive Bride, he's like, "Oh, dumb haircut," or whatever, and stuff like that. So I thought that was pretty funny. So that pretty much, because he was like, like, listen, do you want to go ahead and do this thing? She's like, well, what else am I going to do? So I might as well,
why not?
Which take this thing.
Super cool. And Weasel's also there, right?
Also, yeah, Weasel's there licking himself and shit like that. And I think that's actually the first
licking himself, right?
Sees. Yeah,
I think so. But I love that. And also, that was foreshadowed in the last episode where she has the conversation with the madam, where like the madam takes care of her own. The bride is learning to take care of her own. She lost Nina. Now she, of course, is the perfect leader because she has loyalty to these people. And I just thought the fact that they set it up and they had this kind of parallel with her and the madam in that last episode and actually paid that off in this sort of, post-credit scene, which post-credit scenes usually don't pay shit off. It sets the next thing up. But I felt that this paid off that moment as well as setting the next thing up. And, I got to say, all in all, man, James Gunn, I was skeptical at first of this series, but, man, did this end real strong.
Well, no, like the post-credit scene, though, was Eric Frankenstein.
Oh yeah, you're right. That was the post. You're right. That was the
no. I know. I
forgot that was the last episode.
Yeah. The post-credit scene, for those who I put it up on our Facebook page, just to give a heads up because I've been tipped off that there was finally a post-credit scene, is Eric Frankenstein, who was there and apparently rescued by another old lady, and they're eating soup.
Yes.
Was it sparrow soup? And he's complaining how it tastes
sparrow
like
dropping soup.
Sparrow dropping
It's
soup.
called sparrow dropping soup. So it was shit soup.
Literally shit soup.
Yes.
He's being nursed back to health again and stuff like that. And we've seen this movie before. I'm curious to know how this one ends. If it goes the same way it did the first time, but that's basically, the post-credit scene. So it's just letting you know Eric Frankenstein lives, of course.
He lives. And what I thought was cool about that, and that's funny because you're right. I did see that post-credit scene. I was just thinking about. I was so excited to talk about the other part, but I think what's interesting about that too is he will likely do the same thing he did, and that's kind of the point of that post-credit scene because this is what he does.
Yeah. Right?
He gets rejected from the bride. He picks himself up. Someone helps him. They don't live by the rules of his insanity. And then he goes after the bride again. So this is his cycle. And I thought that was a cool way to kind of perpetuate that. That was nice.
Yeah, can't wait for season 2. I have no idea when that's dropping. Hopefully it's not like too long of a wait. But man,
I hope so.
This series was something, man. This was a lot more fun than I even thought it was going to be.
Same. Absolutely. Absolutely, it was a lot of fun, and I now I've seen this, and now I really want to see James Gunn tackle like a non-buddy type thing, and something not like this, right? He's got the grains of the DCU. We know he can do this. He does this perfectly. We just gushed about this show, and now the next thing, and I know what's coming out, so I know it will be, but now personally, I want to see his take on everything else, and I want to see how he does the non-team stuff.
Yeah, I am still, and I know I mentioned this a few episodes ago, I am so fascinated to see how he handles Superman. Moving like that's, I don't know. I'm so fascinated.
Same.
To see it. So.
Same, because Superman is a very solo character, so.
Yeah, and granted, there's going to be other heroes in that. Like, we know there's going to be, Guy Gardner's Green Lantern is going to be in there. Mr. Terrific is going to be in there. Hawkgirl's in it. We know Ric Flair Sr. is in that somehow. I'm assuming that's what he's doing now that the bride is leading Task Force M. I'm gonna guess, right? Like that's what we're gonna get there. So, yeah, pretty interesting though, but pretty damn good start for the DCU. I will say that they are off to a strong start. So, well, if you haven't seen Creature Commandos, I would highly recommend you check it out. Definitely worth your time. 2 thumbs up for this show. Like, man, it is cool shit. And do not be persuaded because it's animated and it's kiddie shit, because this show is anything but kiddie shit. It is absolutely not for kids.
I would never let my child watch this.
No, this is certainly not that. So, all right. So let's switch gears, shall we? We will switch gears to wrapping up our run of the Crow franchise that did start. We were inspired by the Crow 2024 dropping, and then we sporadically found our way through the original 4 films that dropped before that. We did not do the TV series. We're not doing the TV series. But, yeah, it's been an interesting journey, I will say that. Things have derailed us a couple of times, but we are finally arrived at the final stop at our Crow destination.
Now, before we start this, Ed, I have a question for you. I like to throw these questions out sometimes. So, I have an action figure of someone in this movie. Can you guess who it is?
I'm gonna.
This is fucking stacked cast.
Yeah, I think that's definitely something we have to discuss the cast. My first, I think the easy way is gonna be, and I'm gonna butcher his fucking last name as I always do. David Boreanaz.
Boreanaz, baby, you're right.
Boreanaz. All right, I thought it was going to be, baby. You're a Buffy guy, so I kind of figured that's where it was going. But I was like, wait a second. Does he have a Danny Trejo action figure or some shit like that?
No, but let me tell you something. If such thing existed, I would want it. Okay. But no, I got my TV's Angel right here. I'm a big Buffy guy, big Angel guy, big David Boreanaz guy. Personally, I actually watched a lot more of Bones than I should have, just because I liked him. Okay. And so I got I'm glad you got that in the first shot, because it really could have been anyone but Tara Reid, I think.
Yeah, because I was trying to go off of that, because I kind of figured that was the obvious answer. So I was like, all right, so where do I go with this? I'm like, no, he doesn't have a Tara Reid thing. I was like, Danny Trejo was who I was going to go with. There's no way he has a Macy Gray fucking action figure, or a Tito Ortiz action figure.
Fucking Macy Gray's in this movie.
Oh my
I might
God.
have an Edward Furlong action figure from Terminator 2.
Yeah, I was gonna say a young John Connor action figure was a possibility. Yeah, I guess let's. All right. Well, actually, let's scale back for a second. Before we get into the cast of this film, before we discuss some details, Jason,
let's talk about it.
Your overall thoughts. Your overall thoughts on this film.
I love this movie. I had such a good time with it. I think this kind of justifies me having to fucking sit through all these shitty Crow sequels. Is the last one I get is this one. Now I'm going to say this. This is not a good movie. If anyone is listening to this and going, oh, is that fucking, that needed pan so much. He hates so much. He likes this. No. This is not a good movie. I fucking loved how bad. This is the very definition of so bad it's good, homie. It's so bad it's good, homie.
Oh my God. Yeah.
From the fucking video game profile intros of the 4 Horsemen of the Apocalypse and I laughed out loud every single time this happened. Every time there was some sort of light or fire, there's just this shittily drawn Crow outline. I guffawed every time. Oh my God. And then the fact you got David Boreanaz running around here, who I absolutely adore as an actor. And I think he actually would have been a better Crow than John Connor over here. The fact that Edward Furlong was so miscast, like nothing about this movie works, and yet they still thought it did. And that is what makes a movie that is so bad it's good.
Yeah, this is a bad movie. I'm just gonna let you know that right
Oh,
now.
so bad.
It is. This is a terrible movie. Okay. Now I will judge it on its merits of saying that it was a direct-to-DVD movie, even though yes, it did have a week release. It was released in the theaters for 1 week in Seattle for some bizarre reason.
What?
I don't understand why, but it was. And then it was released on video like a week later. I don't know what the hell that was about, but I did find that in my research for this thing. And well, I'll save that for a minute because there was the original pitch for this movie was very different. I'll leave it at that. Yes, because I've been finding these weird facts that I've been digging up, and I'm going to actually attribute a lot of that to our PCP deep dive show, because it seems like once I start going down these rabbit holes for Nightmare on Elm Street or something like that, I have been finding it's really hard to stop. So I'll save that for a minute. I'll just say this: it involves DMX.
What?
Yes.
I could have had a movie with DMX and David Boreanaz.
I don't know if David Boreanaz was in it, but I will say DMX pitched an idea for a fourth Crow film.
All right, I want to hear that when you're ready. When we're there, I want to hear it.
Okay. So this is a bad movie. There's no way I'm going to suggest if you want to see a good. If it's like, hey, I'm watching The Crow. I like The Crow. Should I watch this movie? No. Actually, I would say you should not watch if that's what your intentions are. Now, to Jason's point, I will agree that if you want to see a movie that's so fucking terrible that you're going to at least laugh your ass off at it, that you can get out of this. If you're able to flip the switch in your brain and get to that, Jason and I do that very well. Well, we can do that. When we notice we're watching a bad movie, we can flip the switch to say, you know something? This is a fucking comedy. And I'm going to laugh my ass off at it now. And that's it. I'm not laughing with you. I'm now laughing at you. And at least I'm getting something out of this. This is brutal. The casting is completely batshit crazy. Edward Furlong as the Crow is so he just looks out of place. He's incredibly miscast. He looks weird. My wife Angie walks in while I'm watching this, right? In which I had to stop it like 3 times and like do other things and then come back to it.
It's the best way. No, I couldn't have done that. It's not the best way to do it. You should have watched it full way through and appreciated it the way David Boreanaz wanted you to.
No, Jason, you've watched many movies with me. You know I sit the fuck down. I shut the fuck up.
I know.
And I go all in on watching, right? But so I stopped the movie. I paused the movie and I had to do something. But I admit I kind of needed some breaks for a minute. But Angie comes in. She watched less than 5 minutes of this movie. And she's like, I can't do this. And she just got her shit and walked out. she left. And it was in the third act. She walked in also.
Oh.
Yeah. Exactly.
The third act is the best, though. That's where shit gets really crazy, homie.
But remember, with no context, and you can't flip the switch like we can. You're like, what the fuck is going on here? I'm out of here. And she can't.
That's fair. That's fair.
This movie's insane, and it goes completely off the rails in the third act. And not that it was ever on the rails, but like Jason had mentioned, it starts off with the gang intros. Right, because this movie of course, has to follow the skeleton of what a Crow movie, I guess, has to be, for the most part. Right, you get person who is wrongfully murdered or not with their loved one, okay, by a gang of dudes who all are unique, different ways, and then he has to right the wrongs, right, by the Crow as the legend of the Crow, and that's where we get our movie. this person has to have some sort of face covering or face paint, and they need a jacket because that's just the way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. The face painting was so stupid. Sorry, I had a flashback to him putting those face paints on.
Oh my god, Jason, was the face paint worse than the third one though?
Yes,
with the burned face.
Absolutely.
Oh, you think it was?
Oh no! I thought you were gonna ask it was better. No, it's absolutely better. No, it's absolutely better.
Okay, all right. I will say that
it is not worse. I'm sorry. I thought you were asking. I just jumped the gun.
Yeah, the worst Crow face painting aspect is definitely Crow Salvation gets the award for worst because that just didn't make any fucking sense on any level. It was just completely moronic. But when he paints the face in this and is the Crow, it's completely ridiculous. And he has that like little neck thing that makes it look like he was like a petulant child who just walked out of like Hot Topic. Right? Am I wrong?
He's a petulant child trying to cosplay as someone's Halloween costume of Sting from wrestling.
That's great. Because it can't be taken seriously. And I don't know if it's because it's like Edward Furlong's physical stature. I don't know. It's just because he has a face that can't. He's just not intimidating at all.
And I want to point out, I don't think he's ever been a good actor. Like, I don't have anything personal against the guy, but like, he was the worst part of Terminator 2, which is an otherwise flawless movie. His performance, not like his character, his performance. Yeah. What did he do other than that? What else has he been in?
Come on,
Lawnmower Man
actually, no, hold on. I am going to push back on this a little bit because you want to know something. I will fully admit, I totally forgot about one film in his filmography, and I think you're going to also take this back though when I mentioned this to you.
Okay,
his filmography is not. It's not a lot. Okay, it's definitely. Wow, I know. Okay. He's done a lot of direct-to-video shit. I will tell you that right now.
Fair enough, and I'm glad the man has a career. I don't hate him. I hope he puts food on the table. And you know,
okay.
and I don't even mind him in this. I like how terribly miscast he is in this. It's part of the charm of this movie.
Yeah, no, it definitely helps with that. But I will say though. He was in Pet Sematary 2, of course, a year after Terminator 2 came out, and
which my wife loves. I've seen that because of her.
I don't like that movie, but I will. I know it has a fan base, so I will say that.
Well, here's the thing. You didn't see it when you were like a 13-year-old girl like my wife did. So, and Edward Furlong is an attractive kid. Was an attractive kid. Not in this Crow movie, he's not. No. He is drained. He looks like he sat through that fucking Dark Crystal machine where the Skeksis take your essence in this movie. But when he was younger.
Oh, this movie came out 14 years after Terminator 2, so. And 13 years after Pet Sematary 2. The one movie I will admit I completely forgot that he was in was American History X.
Oh shit, you're right. He is really good in that. I forgot to.
Yes,
he is very good in that.
And I will give him props.
All right,
American History X is a phenomenal movie, and he's really good.
Same, and he is, and his performance is. It's not a phenomenal movie, despite him, like Terminator 2 is. He is part of why it's a good movie. So yeah, you're right. I agree with you on that. I'll ease up on Mr. Furlong. Sorry, Mr. Furlong.
Yes, his career highlight is definitely American History X, for sure.
Yes,
like his performance wise, Terminator 2 was obviously the biggest movie he's ever done. But
yeah, right. But his performance wise, but I gotta say and maybe he just doesn't give a shit. And fair enough, I wouldn't either if you were paying me to do movies like this. But his performance he's not very good in this. It's not even like it's not even like he doesn't look that he's not sort of domineering or whatever, or like he's not scary enough or whatever, but he's just not good in this. Like, even when he's just the guy, I'm like, can you care? Can you deliver this line with some emotion?
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree with that. I think my issue with Edward Furlong is, like, number one, yeah, he's not good in this movie. If you want to say, is he better than when we saw him as a child actor? Sure, I'll give it that. But it's still, it's not good. And for me, he doesn't work in this because, again, I don't know if it's just his voice. For me, the physical stature part, and I also don't think he can do fight scenes, because I feel like, did you notice, and I texted you about this, right? It seems like once fight scenes are about to start, they cut away a lot.
Oh, it's sort of like cut to guy falling.
Yeah.
It's like you see him going up, but the fight scenes are very truncated like that, that he is in. Like, not every fight, not every scene. Like, if other people are doing violence, it's fine, but it's his specifically.
Him. And I think it's because they probably just realized that, again, whether it's just because he's too small or he can't throw a punch properly or some shit like that, he's not intimidating at all. And I think, and I'm not saying that the other guys who are the Crow, like, I don't know, Brandon Lee is not like the biggest guy, but Brandon Lee is also like a trained martial artist. So you could see obviously where that's not an issue there. Plus, he just had a different he just didn't have the presence to be an intimidating figure once he becomes the Crow. I'll put it that way. Even the guy in the third one, in Crow Salvation, I'll even say at least he was bigger and had some sort, even though he looked kind of goofy, I'll say at least he had the physical stature to appear intimidating when he is this superhero, essentially.
No, 100%. And I second that. I think, Brandon Lee, who is the most intimidating of the four Crows in this, and I get five Crows. Yeah, he's more intimidating than Skarsgård. I like Skarsgård, but it is what it is. But I think it's because Brandon Lee, again, as you said, he brought this presence, right? He knew how to act, like, and he used what he had. You're right. He's not the biggest of guys, but he had confidence. He was able to bolster himself up. There's a way you carry yourself. And I think all of the Crows outside of Furlong, gravitas, exactly. And all of the Crows outside of Furlong are doing that. It's like none of them are the most jacked. I mean, Skarsgård's pretty skinny. Skarsgård, could very easily play like someone strung out on heroin, I mean, and probably has. And that's just, he's not like a daunting, intimidating guy, but he brings this personality, he brings this gravitas to the role that Edward Furlong just is not bringing here. And it makes this Crow very, very flat. Like, I think I texted you this. I wish David Boreanaz was the Crow in this, because I think he's the better actor of the two. I think David Boreanaz in this movie, no matter what this movie is, fucking elevates it. He's so committed to this batshit craziness that's going on. And, like, if you put Edward Furlong as the villain, no, just get Edward Furlong out of here. I mean, I really think if you're looking for a good Crow movie, he's part of the reason this isn't that.
Yeah, number one, I would probably say is the budget of this. I mean, it looks cheap and everything like that. Edward Furlong, though, if you're riding, this movie's riding on Edward Furlong, that's not a good decision. I don't know what that was about.
Right.
David Boreanaz, yeah, you're right. He definitely, I would have casted him in that role of Jimmy Cuervo.
Which, can we stop? Can I talk? Can I just bring this, because this really bothered me. Do you know what Cuervo translates into English?
Oh, I sure do.
Crow.
Exactly.
Right. This man was named Jim Crow in America.
Yes.
Come on, people. What are we doing here? They called anything but Jim. Why is the fucking protagonist of my Crow movie called Jim Crow? Why are you making me think about fucking antebellum South and all of the fucking racism issues we have here? Stop that, Jim Crow. Get out of here.
I don't
Call him Joe Crow. Make it a Jose Cuervo joke.
I don't know. I don't know. But essentially, there's this.
That is actually the worst part of the movie for me. Sorry, that is the worst part of the movie for me.
It's Penn who's. But so the essentially the theme of the story here is that Jimmy Cuervo is I guess he was a felon, and he had his girlfriend there. By the way, did you notice the girlfriend?
No, I didn't clock her. Who was she?
Emmanuel Krakui? She was Lana Lang on Superman and Lois.
Oh shit! I didn't even recognize her.
Yeah,
didn't even
recognize her. A very young Lana Lang. Yeah, I will say. So, right. But it just adds to the insanity of this cast. But they basically have this relationship. Her father, who is played by Danny Trejo, in this is
this is a stacked cast.
Oh yeah, they are this family here, and the family is running Raven Fest at different points, and she can have different visions of things, and she basically gives us an entire exposition, Jason, in the beginning of the whole Crow lore again. Now, I will at least give them credit that this movie at least knows the lore of the Crow, unlike Crow Salvation, who did not know the lore of the Crow, and they were just making shit up as they went along. But our
I was just looking back at the texts I sent to you because it reminded me when I saw Raven Fest. That's when I really started texting you, like Raven Fest. What the fuck? We talked about it going off the rails. If it was ever on the rails, I think it was started off the rails, but it was sort of running parallel to the rails at some point, and then it just goes. There's no rails. It's far, far away. You know, the Raven Fest thing is so stupid. Who thought that was a good idea? And that comes back when he puts his makeup on, right? It's related to the makeup of the Raven Fest.
Yep, and that's why he does it.
Which was the fourth time I laughed out loud at this movie, and I think I told you last week, maybe it was on our other show, Deep Dive. I don't normally laugh out loud when I'm watching something by myself. I'm normally like, oh, that was funny. But I'm in here going, Raven Fest.
I don't know, man. But David Boreanaz and his crew over there, who are the Four Horsemen, and he's this cult leader. They all get their video game like intros, like you mentioned, with their own little bios and shit like that. And they've all been wronged by these people who are trying to build this casino on this land and stuff like that, which all their workers and stuff like that are losing basically everything because of this fucking casino being built. So he riles them up. He's like, we're gonna get revenge on everyone. Who all fucked you over and stuff like that. And they've all been fucked over in different ways, and he's got that. But they also need to do a ritual, apparently, because he is gonna become the devil, or he's gonna have the devil embody
the Antichrist.
The Antichrist, or whatever the fuck he's trying to do.
This is not very clear. Really loses me, because it's like he has the ritual homie, and then
El Nino.
He has to El Nino, yes. He then has to get Tara Reid pregnant before sunup, or they both become white trash again. That's literally what she says. And then he doesn't, because he goes to fight Edward Crowlong.
Well, he doesn't
really,
because he also tries to have sex with her with his tidy whities on. That's probably not going to work.
Well, that too.
Jason,
you do need genital.
Jason, that was the contact for. All right, I know we're gonna jump around because there's other dumb shit I want to get to that's earlier in the film. But now that you brought it up,
we can jump around.
I'm not letting this shit go. Was that sex scene not directed by Tommy Wiseau? Was he the
100%? I thought the same thing. Oh my God, I thought the same thing. I watched it and I went, oh my God, this is like the one sex scene they used twice in The Room. Like, I think that's why part of the reason I like this so much is it reminds me of The Room. This is the Room of Crow movies.
I didn't know what
I
was going
didn't
on
kill
there,
him and her. I didn't murder them to take their money. Oh, hi, Crow.
Oh, hi, Jimmy.
Oh, hi, Jimmy.
Yeah, the scene you just mentioned, though, when he just basically, him and Tara Reid are standing next to each other, and he drops his pants, but the tidy whities are still there, and they don't ever go away. And there's supposed to be, he's trying to get her pregnant so he can get her pregnant before sunup. And obviously that doesn't work because, yeah, Jim Crow shows up, and they have his fight.
And he lays down some very unfair laws.
Yeah, oh, he sure does. And I just don't know what is going on. My note says weird consummation attempt with tidy whities.
So fucking crazy, so crazy.
And they have this. That was the weird fight where he kills him somehow. There's just a lot of questions and unclear things that don't really make sense.
There's a lot of that didn't make sense. And I'll be honest with you, I thought that I texted you about this. I thought this 100% was a repurposed script where David Boreanaz's character was on like a revenge mission, and I was like, the Crow was an afterthought in this fucking movie. But I looked into it. I did a little deep dive of my own, and in fact, it is not a repurposed script. It actually is supposed to be taking lore from the comic.
And it's based on a novel.
Even worse.
Yes.
It's like, what is going on here?
Yeah, Jason,
Jimmy Crow is an afterthought in this movie.
When you mentioned that to me and you were like, you think it was a repurposed script transformed into a Crow movie, I purposely was like, let him finish the movie, and you gave it too much credit. The fact that this is an adaptation of a comic book and a novel is absurd. And I'm not saying every comic and every novel is perfectly written, but I guarantee you it's better than this shit.
No, apparently, like, it takes almost. Apparently, it's like takes 3 things. Like, it's not a lot.
Yeah. So to rewind it, though, this movie, the cult leader needs to murder the daughter, and to get her eyes. And Tara Reid is his girlfriend, and he takes her eyes from her. He takes the eyes of the girlfriend and gives it to his girlfriend. Now she can see shit.
Yes, to Tara Reid.
Yes.
It's you know what this was? I'll give this to you. All right. I'm gonna give you a little insight into the pitch meeting. Do you remember in The Crow when that really creepy guy and his sisters kind of wanted to have sex with, and she was a seer and she had a thing for eyes? Well, we removed this stuff because that shit doesn't sell. But we make them lovers, and she's also a seer as a thing for eyes. Huh? It's a better version of that relationship in The Crow. Eh?
I'm in. Let's do this.
We'll get Tara Reid. She'll be perfect.
Let's get Tara Reid. Exactly. So basically that happens, but Jason, in that scene, is also in David Boreanaz. His character goes ahead and they tie up, after they kill her, they tie up Edward Furlong's Jim Crow, and they rip his fucking heart out, and he eats it and it disintegrates.
Which made this officially for one of 2 things I had to watch for this show, where I watched someone rip out someone's still beating heart.
Yeah, and we're not covering Mortal Kombat.
No, exactly. That made no. I don't like. If you're talking about the lore, that none of this makes any sense. Like, none of this makes any fucking sense.
But
the
if you went, hold on, there's more.
Thought, okay, all right, keep going.
Oh no, go finish because no, what I'm saying, there's more because I have some other things that don't make a lot of sense anyway.
See, I was going to say that the only thing that I kind of did find interesting, but it was done so poorly, was the fact that there actually were Native Americans in this, except they were the fucking ones that David Boreanaz's crew hated, and they were like, I don't even know what they were. They were just there. They were a MacGuffin to get David Boreanaz's crew together to strike back at them, but also become the Antichrist. I don't know. I'm not right. Again, it goes off the rails in the third act. But we actually do get from the Danny, I don't know, this is Danny Trejo's deputy, because Danny Trejo's the sheriff,
his son.
Right?
It's his son. No, Danny Trejo.
His son. It's his son.
No, his son is the cop.
His son is the cop. Okay, so could have been a character, and that's who I thought the main character was from this repurposed script. When I thought it was a repurposed script, because we get kind of some of the Native American stuff through him, and he talks about like, oh, the crow is a symbol, and the crow is a Native American symbol, and so I give this movie just a sprinkling of legitimate credit outside of the adoration of how batshit crazy it is I am. But as a movie, I give a sprinkling of credit for bringing in the Native American stuff. But why have we never seen a Native American fucking crow? Wouldn't that make sense? It's Native American culture, is it not?
Yeah, Jason, there's a lot of things that this crow could have. The crow as a one-off works spectacularly, right? And I'm gonna table some of this for later, but there's so much potential that I could have seen because we talked about this. I am not anti-franchise at all. Obviously, neither are you because we also have a PCB deep dive literally about watching franchises. So franchises are fine. I have no problem
and
with
other
sequels.
things.
Yeah, but I'm fine with it. But the mistake that these movies keep making is that they keep following. They feel like they're tied to using the skeleton of the first movie, and basically face fucking that skeleton over and over again. But they can't do anything original. Yep. You should have done original shit with this, and you could use the Crow lore into original stories. Which I did credit Crow Salvation for at least trying to make an attempt on some sort of a spin on changing it a little bit, but not enough.
I give it credit for that.
This movie, there is something there with the aspect that you have a guy who is a felon who, is maybe not the, angel you want to say that's there. He's not the perfect guy. And I get that. And I don't know if that's what led them to cast Edward Furlong, because maybe he can portray or maybe has something that he's maybe not necessarily the traditional hero type. Maybe that's why they went down that road, I'm guessing. But it's just not, it's just the execution is piss poor in every single one of these fucking sequels since the first one. Right? That's the problem. It's the execution. I think there were interesting ideas there, but they just fumble it constantly and they just triple over themselves.
Actually, I just thought about something real quick. Mm-hmm. Just want to throw this out there because we were talking about the casting, right? So I agree with what you said about like them casting Edward Furlong because he looks like he could pull off this scrubby villain, not villain, but felon that's turning his life around.
Yeah.
Better casting in this. Vincent Kartheiser. Do you know who that is?
Let me Google him quickly so I can.
So
I'm here.
He was in Mad Men. He was a big part of Mad Men. But at this time, he had just finished Angel, where he played David Boreanaz's son. He looks a bit like Edward Furlong. He's a better actor, and he could definitely handle the action scenes because he did it in Angel. And if you're fucking casting David Boreanaz, what a nice nod for the Buffy fans if you casted Vincent Kartheiser as the Crow in this. I'm not saying I'd want him as a Crow necessarily, but in this particular movie, if I'm thinking people outside of Edward Furlong, that's who I would cast.
Holy shit! I'm going to be honest with you. I have not seen one thing that this guy has done. How is that possible?
Oh, what? You never watched Mad Men?
No, I did not watch Mad Men, and I started watching Buffy in like the last season. Like Tim finally put me onto it,
Okay.
and I didn't watch Angel, so I can't. Holy shit! How is there not one thing?
I'm surprised because you've seen
crazy.
a lot.
Yeah, this is crazy. That's some weird shit he's been into. All right.
But he's a guy who could do a fight scene, a fight choreography.
Okay.
So I think he was a bit younger than Furlong, but I think Furlong's too old for this role. Like that's another thing that doesn't work too. Is like I think he's supposed to be like a guy in his 20s, and I don't know how old Furlong is in this, but he looks like he's in his 40s.
So Edward Furlong is 47 years old. He's only a slightly older than us.
Now?
So he had to be now. He didn't age well.
Shit, hard living.
Yeah.
Hard living.
I think he did go.
Wow, he's only 2 years old.
Yeah,
I think so. Yeah, I'm not trying to make fun of him. I'm just
no. I'm just saying. I think
but
there
if we're
was
talking
a thing.
casting,
Yeah. Wow. Okay. By the way, he's only 5'5". That's also part of my issue with Edward Furlong's casting. That's too. Now I know Tom Cruise is like 4 feet tall and he's a great action star, but they also shoot him differently. It seems like so you don't really.
But also, Tom Cruise can carry himself like a 6-foot man, even though he's like 5'3", right, or 5'4", or whatever he is. Like I'm not trying to make fun of him. I don't know how tall he is, but I know he's. Yeah, but like you fucking watch him in a movie, and you believe, and sure, yeah, they shoot him differently and everything, but they could have done that with Edward Furlong too, and I'm sure they did try shit, right? But with Tom Cruise, you believe he is as tall as whatever because he's got that fucking. He's this talent that he brings, right? Him is in Mission Impossible. He is so fucking talented. And there's so much gravitas in that it didn't even matter if he was Tom Thumb. I'd still be impressed.
Yeah, he's taller than Edward Furlong, by the way.
Okay.
Well, the things I wanted to bring up, though, going back to the story here, is there also seems to be this weird thing in this movie where they love throwing gasoline on everything, including a priest in the beginning of the movie, which leads to nothing. And then they keep throwing gasoline on things. But then a cigarette, they put Edward Furlong, they put Jim Crow and his girlfriend in this refrigerator and throw them into this water. And someone flicks a cigarette at it, and it goes on fire. But no one ever put gasoline on it. So I don't quite know how that works for science. This was baffling, and I was laughing at it.
I didn't even clock that. That's a good point.
It was so weird. And the other thing is, when David Boreanaz is having a meeting with his group over there, his 4 horsemen, why is he talking about the devil and offering them devil's food cake and deviled eggs and is upset with them when they don't eat it? And he's almost throwing like, I thought he went to Party City and bought like devil stuff and just like decorated the fucking lair. What the hell was that about?
Look, when you're a cult leader and you do nice things for your cult, you want them to appreciate it. And he was going to become the devil and have the devil's child. And he was like, look, I've seen Batman. I want a whole cadre of fucking Batman goons. You're going to eat devil's food cake. Like, only scene was Batman 66. We're going to wear devil masks.
Oh, Batman and Robin.
Right, exactly.
I just didn't understand. Like, how am I supposed to be taking this, like, seriously, like, at all? It was so fucking bizarre.
I don't know. I didn't.
I love deviled eggs.
But you're right. Like, come on. I would call the devil. Have some devil's food cake, some deviled eggs, some deviled ham. Is there any other food that has devil in it?
It was so fucking weird. It's such a weird scene. It's insane. And then shortly after that is when we get the resurrection of Jim Crow. And Jim Crow does his face paint and blows up his trailer. But his dog he lets his dog out, so that's cool. He doesn't murder his own fucking dog. No, you do that, and then that's it. John Wick shows up, and then all shit's done. And then but of course we get the walking away. He gets his crow on his shoulder, and he's walking away from the exploding trailer in slow motion. Of course, we get that as well.
Of course,
this movie. Let's not forget that.
Look, they studied. All right, they did their homework. They went, okay, what are the 7 points of a Crow movie? Introduce the criminals first, check. Make them real colorful, okay. Kill the love interest and the other person, check. Make him a crow, check. Oh, gotta have him get the jacket, check. Oh, walk away in slow motion with the crow, double check. You need that.
Do you know he also murders one of the group? And I just want to. I was saving this for the cast, okay? But
okay.
There is an actor in this film that plays Pestilence, okay? That is Yuji Yukamoto. And do you know who Yuji Yukamoto is?
No.
He is fucking Chosen from Karate Kid 2.
What?
Yes.
Holy shit.
Yes, that's to add to the insanity of this cast. Okay? He is
literally there. This is the best B cast of a B movie ever. Can you think of another fucking shitty B movie that has a cast this stacked of nobodies and Dennis Hopper?
Which is just baffling.
We get to Dennis Hopper. I figured we're saving Dennis Hopper.
Or you can even say, no. I'm saving El Nino for the end. You bet your ass I am. There's a lot there. There's so much there. Yeah, I couldn't believe that this was fucking Chosen. And by the way, I was so happy to see Chosen. If you watch Cobra Kai like I do, who's in its last season, Chosen comes back in that, which was cool to see. So I'm glad to see this dude got some work in between Cobra Kai and Karate Kid Part 2. But he gets murdered with a fucking fly zapper, Jason. That's how he gets murdered.
Yes, he does.
And the crow in another
ceremonious
scene,
end.
Unceremoniously, right? And also there's an ability that the crow can heal others now because there's someone who's injured in a scene, and he like does a hand thing.
I didn't get that. I was like, again, I kind of laughed. I said, "The fuck is this? This has never happened before in any of these movies."
So they mostly follow the lore outside of that bizarre thing that happens because whatever, why not? And then it kind of brings us to the third act, which we've mentioned, where things really get crazy, and the crew goes to a church brothel that's being ran by a character named El Nino, who is Dennis Hopper, who's in this movie for about 5 minutes.
Yeah, homie. and look, I am willing to bet $100 that he improvised every one of those fucking lines. Literally, I keep saying homie. For anyone who picked up that I keep saying homie, that's because that is his catchphrase. He's like, hey, thanks for coming here, homie. And he says it just like that. He's not acting in this movie. He's reading lines.
And he was like, yeah, you're going to be the OG and stuff like that. And like, he's trying to sound gangster. Like, I don't know what the deal is with his fucking character in this movie. I have no idea. He was
written to be trying to sound gangster. Dennis Hopper clearly is not trying to sound gangster. He's clearly just reading these lines.
Yeah, I don't
Dennis Hopper is like, he's literally just like, you're going to be the OG, homie. Did you sign my check yet?
I have to imagine that he was definitely doing someone a favor or something like that, or he was really cool with somebody. Maybe Danny Trejo. Maybe he's really cool with Danny Trejo. He's like, listen, man, we need one more guy. We ran through the budget already. Can you come in for 5 minutes and just shoot this thing for literally 5 minutes of your time? Only one take, and let's just get it done. That's what I'm imagining.
Oh my god, You know what? I hope that's canon now. I hope that's the case. I want that to be the case so badly. Just Danny Trejo calling Dennis Hopper like, "Hey Dennis, could you come and do us a favor?" Dennis like, "All right, homie. I'm trying a new character. Do I have to actually act? No, you just show up. It's one shot. That's it. One take."
Just that's it. Just literally 5 minutes. We're just gonna turn the camera on and just say whatever you want, and that's it. Just make sure that you mention a couple of things about the OG, meaning the fucking devil in this. Like, just make sure you say that, because this character is trying to become the devil, and he's performing this wedding here between David Boreanaz's character and Tara Reid's, and they just get married, and that's when they go off to consummate the marriage with their clothes on. It's very strange. There's also
Yes.
there's also a fight scene here that happens where I don't know if Jim Crow and I'm gonna go ahead and make sure that I pull his name here, and War, who was played by Marcus Chung, who was in the Matrix, the original Matrix. He was Tank in that.
I recognize him.
Oh, this movie is the cast of I recognize him. There's no question about it.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Wait, is that the chick from
American Pie?
From
Is that the chick from American Pie?
I recognize her. Is that the fucking guy? Is that Angel? I fucking recognize Angel.
Exactly. And then Tito Ortiz is like,
Furlong
that was the guy I saw in the UFC. And then Danny Trejo was like, isn't that the guy that's in everything?
Everything.
And then,
oh my god,
Macy Gray is also in this movie in the third act for some strange reason.
Why not?
She
recognize her. I know her.
That's this movie. Well, isn't that the kid? Isn't that the kid from Terminator 2?
Exactly. In all fairness to Macy, she tried to walk away, but she cried. She tried to pull away, but she stumbled.
Wow. Well played. Well played.
I'll see myself out now. I'll leave now.
Yeah, and again, for us later on, it's also, isn't that Lana Lang from Superman and Lois, or isn't that E's girlfriend from Entourage?
It's crazy. Everyone in this movie is, hey, isn't that?
Yeah, and you know what this is? If you want to know what the casting of this movie is, it is the DiCaprio meme from Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. The whole pointing at the screen.
100%. 100%.
Oh man, but Dennis Hopper is that whole thing. He shows up. He's got this dyed beard that's dyed like jet black, and he's just rambling nonsense about every other thing. Is just homie or OG or for the. I don't even know what the fuck is going on here.
I don't know. Like, $100. He just fucking showed up. He was high. He improvised shit. He didn't take it seriously, and then he left. Seriously, I would bet $100 on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna stick with the Danny Trejo thing. I think him and Danny Trejo were hanging out, and I'm telling you, that's what it was. He was just like,
I want that
to
be it. I want that to be it so badly.
Yeah, and there's this shitty fight scene at the end. Again, there's more cutting away from it. Then the Crow gets injured during it. But by the way, the Crow gets injured, taking away Jim Crow's powers. Okay? Jimmy Cuervo taking his powers away. And they have to do, Danny Trejo and his friends need to do this ritual surrounding it to heal the actual Crow.
God. Oh, fuck.
Jason, what the fuck was that? What was that? I will never forget about that.
Dude, there's just so much insanity in this movie. Here's the thing. I'm assuming that's supposed to be a Native American ritual because Danny Trejo, in fact, is not playing a Mexican. He's playing a Native American, but it's a Native American ritual done by people who cast Mexicans as Native Americans and call them Indians in the script. So it's just brown men of brown complexion with their shirts off going, like I'm watching a fucking John Wayne Western.
Oh man, that was tough. That was
Yeah, that was bad. And they kept coming back to it. That wasn't just one shot. They would like go to the crow and we'd see him hurt and they'd go back to them and they're hi and their racism. I mean, they're not racist, but you get it, it's stereotypes. And then it's back to the crow and it's back, like they keep coming back to them and they're slow motion. And it's like, why are we spending so much time on this?
Yeah, I don't know what that was supposed to be adding, but hey, at least they knew in this movie versus Salvation that if the actual crow is injured, that's how you take the powers away from the crow. Not by him losing the love of his girlfriend, or not by whatever the fuck was going on in the third one too. Because in Salvation, what the hell was there was also some dumb shit that happened in Salvation too. Shit, I can't even remember.
Oh, I don't know.
It was some other goofy
as soon
shit.
As we're done.
Yeah, it's. Well, how about this? Anything else on Wicked Prayer specifically before we do our rankings? Because let's rank them and then we can flush them forever. We'll try to.
Okay. No, I'm not flushing this. I will watch this movie, guarantee. And I'm going to say this right now: the way to watch this movie. Ed said the way not to watch this movie. The way to watch this movie. A little stoned or a little drunk, you have some friends over who are a little stoned, a little drunk, you serve some charcuterie, you're hanging out, you're talking, and all of a sudden you're like, hey, you want to see if one of the craziest fucking movies ever made? You want to see that the Room of the Crow movies, and then you put this on, and I guarantee you will have a wonderful time.
I can't dispute that at all. It's probably that I would have to.
I mean, this is a party movie right here.
Yeah.
The only thing I have left, the only other thing I wanted to say was the beginning. We glossed over this, and I think it's important. The beginning is them breaking David Boreanaz out of jail. The first 20 minutes of this movie plays like a fucking video game. I felt like I was watching video game cutscenes. Like to the point where Tara Reid's like the sniper who shoots his chains. Like it is bad shit. It's crow shit crazy. Not bad shit. It's crow shit crazy.
There's no other way to describe it. You're right. It was almost like a video game, and I don't know if you're supposed to be the sniper or not, or whatever the fuck that was. It's bad. It's so bad. All right. Now let's put a bow on this Crow franchise once and for all, Jason. That we've battled through now, and let's rank these movies. Okay, so let's just get it out of the way. Spoiler: The Crow, 1994, is number one. Done.
Yes.
Right?
Clearly.
Okay.
On both of our lists. Clearly.
Okay. So I will start off with this one. Okay. I'm going to go from last to second. Okay. Last. I actually have The Crow City of Angels as last. Okay. And I will explain why. And there isn't a lot of difference between the last two. They're very close. The Crow City of Angels, simply because there is nothing positive I can say about that film at all. Not one single thing that I can say that's like, you know something? That was cool. Not one. I mean, that movie is just a complete mess, disaster, cash grab to the first one, and just not a very good cash grab at all. Like, there was zero effort even trying to put into it. So that's my dead last. Second to last, Crow 2024. All right. I'm going to say that. Crow 2024 is second to last, because that movie is a complete fucking train wreck. And the one cool thing that came out of that was the third act fight scene, which I had mentioned when we did our review of it. It is a good action sequence at the end, but you bored me to fucking hell by the time we got there. It was too little, too late. It was crap. Love Bill Skarsgård too. Glad I've seen him in other things that are awesome, which is just about everything, right? Even this year, he had Nosferatu. Think about it. Bill Skarsgård this year had 3 movies come out, at least that I've seen, maybe more. The Crow is the worst of it because he had Boy Kills World, which is a lot of fun. If you haven't seen Boy Kills World, I would suggest that. It's a batshit crazy movie that's a lot of fun, but it's so self-aware. And it also he had Nosferatu. That's in theaters now. So solid year for Bill Skarsgård, but Crow 2024 is god awful. Then I will say in third place now, okay, is Crow Salvation. Yeah. Crow Salvation. I will say Crow Salvation is there. And that movie sucks. It's bad news. Okay? Fuck. That movie goes off the rails in the third act too, but it's not fun at all. It's not. It has one cool thing about it, when I think it's when he blows the hole in the hand and he like looks through it. That's about it. That's the one thing I can say about that movie. That was kind of cool. I mean, I guess it has Rob Zombie's Living Dead Girl in that scene also, so there's that. I guess. Otherwise, that movie is just terrible. Just terrible, terrible. And that movie also has a weird direct-to-DVD cast that's fascinating as well. Both of the direct-to-DVD sequels have fascinating cast. And in second place.
Say it.
I will say is The Crow Wicked Prayer. And it's not because of the quality of the film. Okay? It's because of all the things that Jason said, very well put, is that it is so terrible that at least I was laughing. Okay? Because it's a disaster of a movie. It makes no fucking sense. I couldn't even tell you. I was trying to explain the plot and scenes, and it's almost impossible. Okay? To get things correct. But at least there was laughter to be had. And I laughed at Crow Salvation also. Don't get me wrong. Crow 2024, I wasn't laughing. I was perplexed and I was angry. But there was no fun to be had. And same thing with Crow City of Angels. So, I guess Crow Salvation actually tried harder than Crow Wicked Prayer. Right? Like it attempted. Right? Didn't we? I think it tried to be a better movie.
I'd grant you that. It tried. But
it gave it a better
effort. Embraces the fact that it's not. Like, I think that's the thing is, like, it tried and failed. Wicked Prayer went, bring on the insanity.
Yeah, it's like, you know something? Someone was probably watching the movie as they were making it, and they're like, we're fucking done. Let's just, whatever. Someone called Danny, can you call Dennis Hopper, and let's go. You said you know him, right? All right, come on. Let's see what we can do here with this. And that's that. So, but there's got to be the context has to be there. Salvation definitely gave a better effort. Crow 2024 and City of Angels, 0 effort, and Wicked Prayer, that. So, there you go. Those are my rankings. Jason, what do you have?
All right. So I think you and anyone who has listened to these Crow movies know that my bottom of these fucking movies is Crow City of Angels. It is the Crow movie that made me vow, which I had to break for the show, vow to never watch another Crow movie again. And I kept that up until this show. I was fucking hard out on the Crow because City of Angels is abysmal. City of Angels has interesting people in it. You bring Iggy Pop in, and you may still I hate it. That's a big thing. I love Iggy Pop. One of my favorite Star Trek episodes is the episode where Iggy Pop plays a fucking alien and gets gets arrested or something, because it's just fun. He's a fun presence. Nothing was fun about that movie. That movie was just abysmal from start to finish. It was dark. It was poorly written. So no surprise there. I'm also going to have to put the remake, the 2024, second to last. And the reason if it was a bit shorter and try just a little bit harder, I could have justified putting it over, because Skarsgård, I think, is not that he's given anything to do, but Skarsgård is always interesting to watch. And so at least there was him, and he was a big part of that movie, so there was that. But it's long, and it does a lot of the things I fucking hate about remakes and reboots and legacy sequels. We got to explain everything. We got to explain how Professor X lost his hair. We got to explain with painstaking detail how he gets his coat. Oh man, how did John get the shit stain there? Well, you know what? We're gonna give you 3 fucking movies about it. Like, so that alone, it's like, God, if I saw that and City of Angels in the movie theater. And I used Andy's ticket for The Crow, right? I didn't pay for that one.
Yeah, I'm sure. We've gotten away with that a couple of times now.
Yeah.
So you've done well. When Angie bails out on things, you're like, yes.
Yeah. So at least I didn't pay for that, which is why it's above City of Angels, because I paid for City of Angels in the theater. Then there's the clearly now we have the fucking same one, because that Wicked Prayer is the second to last.
There's no way you're putting Salvation above.
No way. But I'm with you. I give Salvation some credit. Tried something new. I didn't particularly think it worked because of the execution, but I like the fact that it wasn't like it was trying to deviate from the skeleton. Not a lot.
Tried.
It was still giving us the skeleton, but it was like, you know what? Instead of hunting down gang members, he's hunting down corrupt cops, and that was something interesting. And I think something good could have been done with that. That had potential. But it tried to be a good movie instead of leaning into how fucking crow shit crazy it was, like Wicked Prayer did. And there was no way I wasn't going to like this movie, because I love movies that are so bad they're good, but like don't know it. You know, it wasn't intentional. This was trying to make something, but it was so out there and so crazy. And then the fact that you have David Boreanaz in it, who I do love as an actor. You fucking Dennis Hopper, homie. Even if he's not doing anything, dude, I would pay to watch Dennis Hopper smoke pot in his underwear for about 20 minutes. I mean, he's an interesting dude. You got Tara Reid before Sharknado, so before she was like the scream queen of the B movies, she was in this. This was like, this is, if you look up B good movies so good they're bad in the dictionary, this wouldn't be there because it's not the actual definition, but it would be implied because this is really so good it's bad. So that's my list. It's the same list as you for similar reasons. But if I'm going to say this, if anyone is watching this going, I'm a big Crow fan. I've read all the comics. I've never seen the movies. Should I watch any of these? Yes, you should watch the first one. And then unless you're like me and love stupid fucking bad movies starring David Boreanaz, you should be hard out on everything else.
Yeah, basically. I was looking at Tara Reid's filmography here. And yeah, I mean, listen, I will give her credit. I mean, she was in Big Lebowski.
She was. So she's done good movies. She was in Big Lebowski. She was in Josie and the Pussycats, which is way better than there's any right to be. If anyone hasn't seen it, it's actually a fucking satire on the music industry. Yeah, she's in Cruel Intentions, which is another good movie. She's had some good movies. but like she like after the 90s 2000s she kind of fell into this obscurity of these B movies, and I think it's only through Sharknado that she had her kind of resurgence, because her and Ian Ziering became like the power couple of B movies because of that movie.
Yeah, and obviously she has the American Pie franchise as well. So even though I didn't realize she's only in 3 of them. She wasn't in 1. It was 3 she wasn't in. Okay. No, I like the American Pie movies. I actually think they're pretty fucking funny.
I like the first one a lot. I mean, well, look, I famously have not famously, but I anyone who knows me knows I have a huge fucking thing for Allison Hannigan. So of course I love those movies. She is the fucking flute girl.
Yeah, she is. She definitely is. Jason Biggs was at the Knicks game on Monday night.
Was he?
Yeah, he was sitting. Dude, he was sitting. No, he was sitting courtside. He's there. He busts open his Knicks shirt, and there's a thing at games now, right? It's been going on for a couple of years now, where when someone's got a beer, when a celebrity has a beer in their hand, and they're put on camera at the stadium or the arena, they chug the beer before the shot goes away. So he was like this. He pulled up his beer, and chugged the whole fucking thing, and he was like screaming, "Oh, let's go do something!" Look at him.
Go Jason Biggs. Go Jason Biggs. I like Jason Biggs, actually. Yeah. I saw him in The Orange is the New Black. I thought he was good. Good guy.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's the Crow franchise, Jason. We are done. It is over. We have conquered it. It took us a minute. We don't have to address it again until the next reboot comes out.
Oh God. Well, hopefully it'll be a while, right? I mean, come on. That one failed hard, that last one.
The only thing that I could see a studio executive saying is like, hey, nobody saw it. Maybe they just forgot it happened. Who's got a script?
You know what they should do? Like, seriously, stop trying to make franchise movies. Make this into a show. Make this into a fucking Netflix show or a Max show or so. I don't know who owns the rights to it, but like, give us an actual like story from start to finish, like the comic run would do. Like, I think that's the next step at The Crow is adapting it into that, because at this point, I don't know. They've beaten the dead horse of the first one so badly with all of these sequels. I don't know what else they could do outside of change format and make it a bit longer and get more into the detail and make it more of like a horror drama or an action drama or something that is character driven. Because what are they going to do? They're going to reboot it, and it's like, okay, it's another fucking weird-looking white guy in a trench coat and face paint killing gang members who murdered him and his girlfriend. Like, how many times are they going to see that?
So I was looking into that. So there was a Crow Stairway to Heaven is the name of the TV series that lasted 1 season.
Oh, no. Okay.
And well, you want to know something? On Rotten Tomatoes, it actually has 56%. Which is much higher than any of the sequels. So maybe it wasn't.
Okay, awful. So maybe it wasn't that. Maybe it wasn't everyone's cup of tea, but it seems it was at least better than these movies.
And Mark Dacascos was the Crow, and he was actually Eric Draven, because it's not trying to be a different thing. It is about Eric and Shelley, the TV series. So
okay, all right.
Martha Costco's
not as interested in, but
he was in. Let's look at his stuff. He was in John Wick 3. Actually, he was a pretty prominent character in John Wick 3. So I will say that. But outside of that, is like Cradle to the Grave and Double Dragon, and Only the Strong is a lot of like martial arts stuff. So I understand why he was like cast in it. I guess they decided to try to, actually do it correctly.
But I'll tell you what, though, I'm more interested in Eric Draven and Shelley and their backstory than I am any of the sequels.
Yeah, I agree.
So there's that.
Yeah. So, and before we sign off, because we're about to, so DMX, okay, he pitched a 4th Crow movie to a studio, and it was actually being set up, but it didn't get greenlit. Where he was like, "Hey, he was going to play the main character, and it was going to be somebody going ahead and killing someone getting killed in a drive-by. And that's how
cool.
it was going to happen. I agree. I thought that was an interesting concept. Again, to change up the formula a little bit, the skeleton.
Right.
But it didn't.
Right. You don't need a love story. And so like someone killed in a drive-by, like randomly, accidentally or something,
Yeah.
It literally can just be anyone who is wrongly murdered who comes back for revenge. It doesn't always have to be the same fucking character. And I think that's a problem with all of these Crow movies is every single one of them is trying to give us the Brandon Lee Crow, like even as a character. And it just doesn't fucking work. It worked for him. It doesn't work now. So something like that, where someone randomly killed in a fucking drive-by comes back to take revenge on the gang who unfairly killed them. That sounds good, and a lot different than this, but still something that would work in the Crow universe.
And granted, it looked like it was going to be a direct-to-video, so who knows the quality we would have gotten, but at least the effort would have been put there to give us something different.
Exactly.
All right. So then that wraps it up for us this week. Thank you for joining us as always. If you join us on the Facebook live stream, be sure to check out Granny's Peachy's Facebook group, where we drop a lot of cool stories and stuff like that, and trailers and whatnot, and it's fun conversation going on over there. So you can check us out there. Check out Pop Culture Pros and popculturepros.com because that's what we are presented by. And if you check this out on YouTube, subscribe to Pop Culture Pros as well, and wherever you found your audio-only podcast. We will be back next week, and Jason is going to hear exactly what's going on here right now because our TV show wrapped up, and we don't have a franchise we're diving into right now. So next week, though, Jason,
I don't actually know what we're doing next week.
No. So we will be back with the season 5 premiere of Harley Quinn, which drops on Max next Thursday. That's back.
Yes.
So we got that. I don't know how many episodes are dropping at once.
Fucking
I don't know if it's 2 or 3 or something like that, but we do got Harley Quinn back. And our movie of the week will be Spawn, because we have never gotten around to Spawn.
Holy shit, are we actually going to watch Spawn?
Let's fucking go. It's time for Spawn.
Holy shit, I haven't seen Spawn since it first came out.
I watched that movie until like the fucking VHS like ripped apart, and it's been a long time since I've watched it in its entirety. So I am super excited to finally get around to Spawn, because I don't know when the hell else we're gonna have an opportunity to cover it.
No, this is good. I'm very happy about this one. I remember I've only seen it once or twice, but I remember having mixed feelings about it. Like really liking the guy who played Spawn, really finding John Leguizamo disgusting, but I haven't seen this in decades, so I'm excited for this rewatch.
Yeah, me too. I loved it when it came out. I was very excited for the HBO Did you ever see the HBO animated series?
I didn't. Is it worth watching?
I remember. I haven't watched it in a long time, but when it came out, it was fucking awesome. So I don't know if that holds up. We can discuss the animated series like another time. I don't remember. I don't think it was that long either. But we will be. That'll be our movie of the week next week, and we have our TV show. So join us next week, and we'll see you then. Peace.